Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast brought to you by Tacticam. Tacticam is by far the easiest way to begin filming your hunts. Whether it's the budget-friendly solo or the 4K 5.0, Tacticam has something for everyone. Check them out at tacticam.com. This year we are also partnered with Spartan Forge. Spartan Forge uses military intelligence to track deer patterns using data from insurance companies, collared deer studies, and even social media. Spartan Forge uses the same techniques used to plan military operations to predict and pattern white-tailed deer. Spartan Forge, find, fix, finish. You can check them out at spartanforge.ai and you can use the code BOWHUNTER to save 25%. All right, everybody, another episode from Dan Infalt. Now, this episode is, we started kind of late, a little bit of scheduling stuff, so we kind of were maybe a little all over the place on this one, but I don't know. Dan keeps coming back on the show, and I think he laughs more in this one than I've heard him on any of the other podcasts that I've listened to him on. So we must be doing something right. But this is a fun one. Talking to Dan about, obviously we talk about the new stand. We talk about the his sticks, the beast gear. We talk about his scouting workshops. He just announced the dates for his scouting workshops. So we talk a little bit about going there. We did a whole video from the scouting workshop last year that, many of you have seen. It's got a ton of views on our YouTube, but if you've got a chance to go to that, I definitely think that it's worth it. If you're trying to figure this out and trying to see how these setups are, Dan does a great job in his videos of showing you how to do that, but going there and being able to pick his brain is pretty awesome. I think you guys are going to really like this episode. Everything that Dan does is great, but this was a fun one. Like I said, a lot of laughs in this one. I just got done on Instagram Live announcing our Patreon winners, but I think Jerry was on there, but the winners I don't believe were on there to see. So Brandon Sadler won the Mystery Ranch Sawtooth Pack with the lid. Ryan Schultz was our winner for Badlands rain gear. So Ryan, you got to get a hold of me and let me know what size you want so I can get that ordered for you. And Jerry Casperson, he won the Pro Pack from Base Map with the swag and all of that. So that was from the last quarter of last year. And so Patreon is a crowdfunding deal where you sign up. Right now, everything is set up at $5 a month. You could give us more if you want to. Some people do. But basically, $5 a month, 17 cents a day for a chance to win all this great stuff. And it helps the show out because it allows us to try new gear, try some stuff out. I got it's actually used, but I didn't want to buy one new. I've got a Hawk saddle kit here that I'm going to do a long form review / evaluation. And I'm no expert, but I can tell you of all the saddles that I've seen, how this one compares and what things are scary to me. But it allows us to do stuff like that and to get this gear and try it out and be informed. So that's one thing when we talk to people, we don't like to talk on things that we don't have any experience with. So it allows us to do that stuff. So you can check that out at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles Podcast, or you can go to bowhunterchroniclespodcast.com and click on our Patreon, or I think on our Instagram. If you click on the link there, there's a thing for Patreon. And so now as we're getting into, 2021, we're like in our third or fourth year of doing this podcast, and we haven't given away a bow. We're not affiliated with any bow companies or anything. I'm trying, it would be nice if someone would give us a bow to give away. But the Patrons are allowing us to do that. So we are going to give away a bow for 2021. We're going to give it away at the Total Archery Challenge. I've got a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. John is going to take it step by step and explain to you guys on the podcast on YouTube what he's doing, how he's setting up this bow. It's going to be a complete setup bow. We talked with HHA It's going to have HHA components on it. The guys over there, Chris, is amazing. I got in touch with him through Eric Clark of the Where to Hunt podcast. So thank you so much, Eric. And he put me in touch with Chris. And so we're getting a site, rest, and all of that straight from HHA. And we're going to get those set up, and it's going to be on that bow. And that's going to be available to anybody that listens to the podcast through a couple of different ways. But the Patreons are definitely going to be heavy-handed in winning that. So, they're going to have, I think, for every month that they're have been a Patreon, it's going to be more entries, and then by purchasing shirts or anything like that, you'll be able to enter as well. But you don't have to buy anything to win. But those will give you additional chances. So that's one of the things we're doing for 2021. The Beast Stand, we're also going to be giving away one of those. I'm waiting to see what shakes out on this bow build because that's coming out of pocket. But we're going to be ordering one of those. We've got some time. They're not even going to ship until June. So those are on pre-order. But I'll get one of those ordered probably the end of this month, and we'll figure out how we're going to give that away. But we are going to be giving away one of the Beast Stands as well. The first quarter, we're still doing Tacticam. Tacticam has been really great to us. And so we're going to give away a Tacticam 5.0 with the Turkey Reaper. Can't reap them in Michigan, but that's one of the things we're going to be giving away from Tacticam. And then from like our YouTube and our just from the podcast, from the last Gear podcast, the guys from Latitudes reached out and said, hey, you really like that classic? I'll give you one to give away. So we're going to give that away for the first quarter. And I've got some XOP mini sticks. So I'm going to package that all and just get a complete saddle hunting package. So it's going to be some XOP sticks, a Latitude saddle, and probably their ropes. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do for a platform yet. We'll figure something out on that. Let me know. Shoot me a message or whatever. But so we're looking at Tacticam 5.0 with the Reaper, the Latitude Classic saddle, and then also with Base Map, we use them exclusively. For the value, I don't think you can beat it, especially if you use the code Chronicles when you sign up online for that, and you get 20% off. So it's like $2 a month for Base Map for the entire country. But they give away a swag pack, so it's going to be a pro subscription and a swag pack from that. The Spartan Forge, if you listen to the last podcast, pretty excited to see how that all shapes out, using that, monitoring, deer movement on the days that, the app says statistically have been the best days. And so they're going to give away one of those subscriptions in a swag pack as well. So, there's a ton of different things that we're doing through Patreon. And, you're supporting the show, but we're doing our best to make it worth your while, and say that, you guys really do mean the world to us. So it's a really long-winded thing, but we got a lot of stuff going on for 2021. We're giving away a lot of stuff, and we're excited to talk about it. And like I said, you can go to patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, check that out. And you can, just go to our website, click on the link on Instagram, whatever. Doesn't matter, though. If you guys are listening to this and you've made it through this, I can't thank you enough. Just tell somebody about the podcast. If you say, I don't want to win any of your stuff, I'll buy my own stuff. It doesn't matter. I don't want to support you guys. I appreciate this free platform. That's awesome. Just do us a favor and tell somebody else about the podcast. And, maybe say, hey, listen to this, or, hey, these guys are giving away this, or this is what they're doing. Check out our YouTube channel, subscribe to that. Those things help us out incredibly because it gets us in front of more people. But like I said, this is a fun episode. At the end, if you stick through it all the way to the end, you can reach out to Dan. He said if you buy his truck, he'll sell it to you and autograph it. It's sitting there waiting for you in Wisconsin right next to the marsh. So look at that at the end of the episode. But like I said, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, here tonight with a man who needs no introduction, the big buck serial killer, Dan Infalt. How you doing tonight, Dan?
Good.
So I want to say, congratulations on finally getting the stand out and, everything. That's been a big, long ordeal. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later in the podcast. But, I think it bears mentioning right off the bat that, it's been a long process for you, and it's got to feel good to just finally have it out there and, be moving forward.
Yeah, that feels pretty good.
So I just wanted to start off by saying, last year we were able to go over and, get to see the real Dan Infalt. You get to see, when I talked to Joe, Rentmeester, about trying to talk to you on the podcast last year or the year before, it was like, seem like an intimidating guy, and he's like, oh no, he's a sweetie, he's such a nice guy. And, reached out and had you on the podcast, and then we came over for the scouting workshop, and man, that was a lot of fun. That the amount of information and everything there, just what a great experience. So, if guys get a chance to do that, I definitely recommend it. So for us here and getting to go over there, and it really affected our hunting styles and everything. For yourself, doing those scouting seminars and workshops and YouTube and everything, how has that affected your hunting, by kind of showing everybody how you do it?
It's definitely made my success, the amount of deer I killed, go down. But it's more of what I do and who I am now. I love helping other people. But yeah, I see a lot more people in the areas I hunt. A lot more smarter hunters on public land. I don't know that the numbers of people have gone up, but they're hunting smarter. They're hunting in the right spots. Where it used to be like the people that were on public land were more uneducated, kind of I don't want to call them dumber or something, but they just didn't have the knowledge, and they would hunt in spots that were kind of amateur, like where they see a big rub or something, rather than hunt based on the terrain and stuff. And now you see a lot more guys that are hunting based on the terrain and where bedding should be and stuff like that. And there's only so many spots like that in some of these places, But if I get away from home and I go on travel trips, I do a lot better.
And that was going to be one of my next questions. Do you feel, I know I've heard you say, and I know you probably said it on our podcast too, that you like to have, 30 spots or a numerous amount of spots. But how does that affect, like, when you go to another state, do you feel like, I don't know, liberated in a sense, where you're going and looking at stuff fresh the first time, where you don't go, do you have a different set of expectations?
No, I go into all of it kind of open-minded and just see what we're going to run into. And I think I've always kind of got the thing in the back of my mind where it's going to be easy on this and go in there and kill a big buck and it's going to be no problem, even though it doesn't always work out that way. But that mindset, I think, is good for me. But I actually like going into new areas and stuff, and challenging areas. Like this year, I wanted to take a road trip after I shot my buck in Wisconsin, and I was trying to figure out where to go, and I talked about it a little bit online, and I was getting offers like you wouldn't believe. People were like, come down and hunt my 400-acre farm in central Illinois. It's loaded with giant bucks, and they're sending me trail cam pictures of these giants in their fields and stuff, and I chose to just go down and hunt some public and a little private with Josh, friend of mine, and just we're low odds, but it just seemed like a more enjoyable time. It's different now, for me, where I think a lot of the people listening to me are still in a stage where they really want to kill big bucks. So I kind of try to put myself into challenging situations, and I like new situations. I like to go into areas that I've never been before and figure it out. And I think there's a sense of accomplishment when I go into somewhere where just about anybody can hunt, walk in there and figure it out and get the job done when other people aren't, kind of thing. There's a sense of accomplishment there.
So when you go into a new area, what is your most challenging terrain to find a good buck?
Challenging terrain,
like hill country or swamp, or like when you're going into a new area.
I would say probably flat big woods would probably be the most challenging. That are very large timbered swamps, like that are solid, like tamarack or something like that. Anything that's got a monotonous terrain where there isn't much that's different. You know what I mean? There isn't much edge.
Okay. So, like, for you trying to figure these spots out, and on these, you've got a giant bag of tricks and a lot of experience to pull from, as you go to these new states and new challenging terrains and things like that. And you say that you like to figure it out. Like, I think I'm in the point in my career where I'm starting to add to that bag of tricks, and where I'm trying to gain more experience and more knowledge. Like, for guys that are just starting that journey, like, I guess how long, say the swamp that you did your scouting, seminar that we did, like, how long did it take you to figure out that piece of property? Because I think now, when you say, look, I like to go in and figure it out, but you're on a trip that's 7 days, and, like, for me, this was my second year hunting this piece of property that I'm trying to figure out. And I feel like I'm just getting that one little step closer. So what do you think is, like, how long did it take you to do that and figure it out?
Well, that's going to differ depending on the guy who's doing it. But for me, this marsh, I've hunted a large portion of my life. But going into marshes like this, there's 2,000 or 3,000 acres in a marsh type terrain. It usually will only take me a season to get it down. I mean, one season of scouting and then hunting, I'll know most of the good stuff in there. And then by the time you get about 3 or 4 seasons into it, I really know well. And that's because you kind of got to rotate through the bedding areas and not overhunt them to kind of find out what's really good and what's really happening. You have to see where the action is, kind of thing. But usually my scouting's pretty spot on.
Okay. And then in doing so, you're just looking for, commonalities of each bedding area, all of the terrain features, etc. Correct?
Yeah, I'm kind of going in there, and I usually look at an area as more of the mindset of what's getting overlooked, and does that overlooked stuff have the terrain to hold a big buck? Most of the big bucks I find are in spots that nobody would look at. And
so I guess kind of going back to like what we said about, how has it changed your, putting all this information out there and Onyx and, podcasts like this one.
Base map.
Yeah. Where people, just the advent of the online mapping that anybody can have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that alone takes that fear piece out of it for a lot of guys going in there further. But now, like in one of your most recent videos, you did the dating the fat chick, long form episode. Now, do you think, or is that like a genius ploy to get people closer to the road so that you can?
Yeah, there's no genius ploy there. It's for real. But I see a lot of that pressure behind my house. And I think it's because people like Google my name and look at my address or something. They know I live here. I've seen a big uptick in the last few years of non-resident cars. in all the parking lots. And wherever I run into somebody, they know who I am. Where it didn't used to be that 5 years ago, But if I go just 20 miles down the road, those marshes and those swamps have pressure too. That's gone up a little, but nowhere near like here. And I can still get on big bucks pretty fast. And there's still a lot of overlooked spots. So I doubt it's affecting everybody's hunting areas really negatively. Probably more mine.
Well, I mean, so John's brother hunts this property. He's been hunting for decades, and he's running into guys now that say, well, I just found this online.
Right, yeah.
And, he's in there, and they're not taking the right entryway in. They're walking miles to get to a spot that, is easily accessed from a tote road or something. And, even John, like last year, was looking at, I guess we would call them beastie looking spots. And he runs into guys with hunting beast stickers on their car and full lone wolf setups and stuff. And he's like, okay, well, these guys know what they're doing, or at least we're trying to do the same thing. So I think as you've gone through this and you've started to put, because you've been putting out information forever, but do you think in the uptick of podcasts and YouTube and everything like that, like knowing what you know today about pressure and everything, would you have done anything differently?
No. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, I'm in this to help people. It might sound weird to some people, but I want to help people become better hunters because I think it'll do a lot for our sport. You bring more people into hunting, more people like hunting, more people think positively about hunting. And if those people are out there hunting and they're just failing and they're miserable and they don't know what they're doing, which is what it was if you go back 15, 20 years ago, because everybody that turned on TV or tried to learn something just saw, ranches full of giant bucks that were managed, and they were trying to mimic those tactics out on public land, where the majority of people hunt. And if you give those people an education on how to hunt and that they can still do it, and you give them hope, and they go out there and they see a little bit of success and they have fun, they'll keep hunting. They'll stay in the sport. They'll get their kids into the sport. And I think it's better all the way around. And I'd rather see young people getting into hunting than into drugs or into hanging out with guys getting into trouble,
Sure. Now, when you guys do, granted, it seems like a lot of your big buck kills and things like that, some of them come early season, they've come all times, but a lot of them have been with a bow. We're kind of bow hunting, centered. That's just what we really enjoy. How has the deer, you guys have a rich history, just like Michigan, but, doing the deer drives, and you kind of showcase a lot of that on your show there. How are you using that information, for your hunts in the future? Are you using that as kind of like a scouting mission to say this is where the deer go when there's pressure? Or how are you using that as a tool other than just to shoot some deer and have some fun?
Yeah, a lot of times I'm taking a gun and I'm sneaking through bedding areas and stuff, trying to jump deer. But in a lot of cases, I'm finding like new areas I want to go through, and I'm actually kind of scouting them, but with the possibility of killing something. I do that a lot. And there's a lot to be said about in-season scouting and seeing what's going on right during the season than just after. And even on years like this, when I tag out early, and I'm not really into doe hunting, so I go out and get some scouting done in season, and figure out, actual time what's going on,
And so one of our listeners, he wanted to know, so for you, how do you unwind after the season, or does the season ever stop? So a long, grueling season, like I would say maybe last year, where it was, down to the last couple days when you shot that doe from a folding chair, like after the season, or does the season never stop?
Well, it kind of never stops, but it is kind of weird because like once I don't have a tag or whatever, and I'm done. A lot of times I've been hunting so hard, it's like a relief, and you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I can just kind of kick back a little. But it doesn't take but 2 days, and I'm pacing the floor. I want to be back out there. You know, you think you want to stop, but you don't. You're just tired from doing it every day, and probably need a day's break or something. But for me, I mean, I always want to be out there. I always want to be pushing. And I mean, it kills me right now. My friends are out hunting. I mean, we're open till January 31st, and I'm not. And I keep trying to get buddies that got a tag to come over so I can go out hunting with them. And they're like, I don't want you telling me where to hunt. Sitting over the top of me with a camera. But now that I said that, I'll probably get a million requests from your listeners. But yeah, there's definitely a drive to be out there all the time. I mean, in an ideal situation, I would like to, be chasing deer and never get them, and then it gets to the last day and you shoot them last minute. That would be the ideal situation for me. You get to do the whole season and have all that adventure and fun, you know.
Yeah, I really kind of just for my own like sanity, I like you saying that you do the scouting, when you're out there with the rifle, because John, he's like, if you take a rifle out there, we can't do this anymore. This is done. And it's like, I feel the same way. It's like, I don't necessarily know, I'm not on that level. So what I'm trying to search more, I can cover more ground walking than I can.
So just carry your bow. I mean,
bow works too. Yeah.
You jump the buck, you don't get a shot. He might be there next year when you come back, right? But that kind of leads it. One of my really good friends, he's hunted this area for our whole lives. For 30 years, and he's killed good bucks, but never real consistent. And like this year, he's got like 4 different good bucks, even in late season. And he's been over to my house like the last 3 days. He's like, you went to Dan's workshop. I want you to come out here and scout this spot and tell me how to get on these bucks. I'm like, well, dude, I went to his workshop, but I'm still a freaking dummy, But he's like, so like, what food are they eating? What am I supposed to be looking for? And if I do find beds and stuff now, how does that translate into next season? Like, they're not going to be there. Are they going to be there in, early season, or is it after the pressure? I'm like, I don't know. I'll try to ask Dan, but that's a whole lot of shit to be asking without having you walk the property. But
yeah, that's probably your average person thinks like that. I get questions like that all the time. And basically what it is he's still hunting. He's got a scout from the distance, especially late season. This time of year in Michigan or Wisconsin, those deer are on a real pattern. They're going from bed to food and back and forth just constantly. As a matter of fact, I got trail cameras out and they're driving me nuts because I got big bucks coming in all the time now and I'm not hunting. But they're going back and forth on a bed to food pattern. And the problem with it is there's no leaves, no cover, and they're watching open areas and stuff. And you go in there and you bumble around following tracks and climb up a tree, you're going to spook them out of there. You're not going to see any deer, and you go like, well, there's tracks, there's no deer.
Right.
You kind of got to sit back and watch it from a distance before you go in there and figure out a vulnerable way to get in there without them seeing you get in there, and see where they get close to something you can kill them, and see how many deer come out, where they come out, what you can get away with, and then move in. And you can do that more this time of the year, because this time of the year they're on the best patterns they're on out of the whole year. I mean, we talk about pattern in early season, but really early season they might come in one day and not the next day they move someplace else, and then 3 days later they're back where they were. You're still patterning them, but it's a little more hit or miss. Where this time of the year they really get on a solid pattern until they get bumped. And he could just go out there and sit back and watch and get on them. But if he's already moved around in there, he's already got him skittish.
Yeah, see, our season ended, so he's been up, he stayed up his cabin for, he just got home and then been in my house every day. But he was like, he's hunting this, it's a big swamp, cedar swamp, there's some hemlocks and stuff like that. And he's like, well, I followed the tracks out, and he's like, but it's like, it's swamp, but it's open. Like you can see like 200 yards. And he's like, then I'll find like a little raise, like maybe it's a foot higher than the rest, and I'll find a bed. He's like, how the hell do I get to that? I'm like, well, you're gonna have to sit back. I mean, obviously he's there for a reason because he could see, 200 yards, so he's gonna see any danger coming. But he's like, so how close is too close? And
Right.
I'm like,
so what I do is I get to the bedding area. I look around because it's usually not one bed, especially if it's a spot that's used a lot. There's usually several beds because it's going to bed there on different winds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I get in there and I look at the beds at this time of year, and I'm going to look out from there, and I'm going to sit in the spot where I can see the best in the direction that the travel route's going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to look and look and look, and I'm going to see how far can I see and what's the furthest object I can see. And I'm going to get about to that point, just a little beyond, and I'm going to make a setup. And that's where I'm going to be next year when I want to hunt that spot.
Okay.
So that I'm just barely out of sight, I'm out of sound, and I'm out of smell. But I want to be just barely, because a lot of times those bucks get up and they only move 75 yards in daylight if it's a trophy buck. And then guys will say, well, I have deer that walk further. I've had deer go 200 yards. And, was it mature? And, well, I had that happen once. And okay, you had it happen once. So you're going to base all your hunting on that. So what I'm saying is most of the time they only get a short distance. So if you want to be consistent on trophy bucks, you got to get as close as possible. Because a lot of the times the ones I've killed on known bedding areas, I'm killing them 75 yards, 100 yards in that bedding area, sneaking in there like a mouse really quietly, setting up. And when I shoot those deer, and there's been nobody in there hunting before, so they have no idea nobody's hunting. When I shoot those deer, it's almost closing time.
Yeah.
It's right at gray light. So that just tells you have to get really close. So you have to play this game of how close is too close. And sometimes the only way to know that is to see a few tails fly up,
Right. Perfect.
What's funny, Dan, is like I said, us going to that scouting seminar, like when you're saying that, I'm like, it's just the same as like standing in the marsh and you're saying it like right over the bed. Like I can, we did that video and you're like, oh, it's going to get so many views. And like a lot of people have watched that, that video, that's for sure. But like I said, when you're saying that stuff, to see it in real life, like when you're saying, okay, this is the tree that I would be in, and the beds are right there. And then for us, like being able to go out and, kind of do our best to emulate that. I mean, it's pretty cool. What you're doing. I mean, the seminars are pretty cool. Like it's a great, like thought process or premise, something to think about. But like when you're there, it's like, I'm sure we said it on the podcast that we did on our way home from there, but it's like nobody will bring you into their hunting spot and say, this is exactly how I set up. Now, have you done seminars like that, or, you said big woods is the toughest. So was that kind of like what you were hunting in Pennsylvania? Would you call that big woods?
Yeah, but it was hilly. So, and I know it's a saving grace because there wasn't as high a density of deer over there that there is here. But I could look at the elevation and know where they should be. So I could cover a huge piece of woods and say, based on this wind and they should be on this elevation. So, and this 3 or 4 square miles, they should be in this spot. Then you can go out there, and if there's no deer there, move on, instead of having to scour a whole woods or a whole area. So because of the rolling hills and the ridges, I was able to pinpoint the deer and get onto good deer a lot faster.
And have you done like a big woods scouting seminar? I know you've done some hill country ones. Have you done anything like that?
Yeah, we did one, but it wasn't flat. We did one in Tennessee. It wasn't flat. It was hilly, and it was a struggle. I mean, it was mature woods that made it hard because that made the bedding lacking. But we still got on big bucks during that seminar. And it was, you know, and that situation was a struggle for me because I went down there with not ever walking on that property before. And I walked it the day before I took the guys out. So I felt pressure to find some, you know, good bedding to show them and show them some setups. And usually I can walk into a green area and really get on some good stuff. And that was hard. That was the land between the lakes down there.
Okay.
It was a little tough to get on.
And so was that must have been more like one of your public land challenge type scenarios where just looking at it on a map and then having to go in there and, you know, say, this is what I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I went in there based on maps, and when I got in there, it wasn't what I expected. So it was a little bit of a challenge. And it was kind of funny because I thought that, you know, people would be a little disappointed in you only finding a couple of real good bedding areas. And the people were like really happy that I struggled a little. Like they didn't want me to make it easy because that would mean they were failing all these years, I guess.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is I think, you know, in that type of situation, like, you know, I think why people like to listen to guys like John and I is that, you know, it's like, I don't know, like the hair club for men, like, you know, we're not only, you know, selling it, we're the president, you know, like we're struggling hunters too, you know. And so
yeah.
when, I mean, the whole premise of like what you're saying is like when you're watching guys on TV, you know, just kill big bucks all the time and you just walk in and, you know, that's what it is. You know, I think probably, Dan, whether you like it or not, you've become kind of one of those guys on TV, but doing it without, you know, the feeder and all of that. So.
You know what? I guess what the difference is those guys can give advice, and a guy like me can give advice. But if you haven't been successful on the same type of ground, I mean, it's different to farm deer than it is to go out and hunt them on public ground without no food sources or creating anything or taking a stand on your back. You know, I don't want to sound cruel to those people because I like a lot of those people that have those farms, and we'd all like to have a farm like that. But it's a whole different world, and I've hunted ranches that are managed and had 150-inch deer walking by you like they're fawns. You know, look at you in the tree and just keep feeding. It's a whole different world. I mean, those people really, the advice they're given just isn't credible for guys like you and me, and that's just reality.
Right, and that's kind of a good transition. You know, when you say going in with a stand on your back and everything, so you, like we said at the beginning, you had just had your stand released. Now we got to see a stand last year at the seminar there, the scouting seminar. What does this final production stand look like compared to that one? Or I guess what has changed in this new stand?
Not a whole lot. Probably not much that you'd notice. I changed the way it grips the tree a little differently to make it a little better. Just tweaked it a little bit. I'm always tweaking stuff, making things as best I can. That's why it takes me so long to release something. I always want everything perfect. And we took some weight out of some areas and added some strength in some other areas. But that's all we did that was different. It's got a really cool anodized finish now, and then we built an integrated way to stack your sticks in the back of it.
Now, are the standoffs, are they as sharp enough to shave with? Like, because I know Adam's got your bee sticks, and I just built him a new string for his bow, like before he went out west, and now I have to build him another string because apparently one of the bee sticks touched his string. And
you can carry those things in case you run into a grizzly bear.
Right.
Oh man, my hands are just healing up. I've got like cuts all over from grabbing the sticks and, you know, grabbing them in the dark and stuff. And I mean, everybody
we changed that. We put a radius around them because they were so sharp. You got to remember when I first built those, I built those for me, right. And I went on a really sharp edge on those where it just cut into the tree and locked in really tight. But yeah, there was a few people cutting themselves. We had to, I had to just settle for just not quite so sharp.
And so, that statement right there, you built those for you. Can you, so maybe some guys, I can't imagine that they're listening to this podcast and haven't heard about your tree stand to this point, but can you tell us a little bit about the journey, like, of the tree stand that you've got, and did you ever think that it would come to production?
Well, I think where I was at is all the gear for mobile guys is stuff made for guys that hunt permanent stands. There was nobody out there making mobile gear. And it kind of, we were making stuff that worked okay, like lone wolf cast stands worked, but they're a little heavy. They weren't built quite for a mobile guy. They were really designed and built for guys that are going to put, 5, 6 of them on their land, but they worked okay for mobile hunting. I didn't like the every aspect of the sticks for mobile hunting. I didn't like every aspect of the stand. I really wanted something light. A lot of times I'm going back miles and I'm going through water waist deep and you're pushing through stuff. I wanted something thin, small, where I could get through thick cover, built for a mobile guy. And nobody had nothing and nobody was going in that direction. And I had talked to the owners of Lone Wolf about going in that direction. They didn't seem real interested at the time, thought it was a phase or whatever. And so I just decided to do something on my own. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to make it to market it. I'm just going to make myself a tree stand and make myself some sticks and I'm going to make it my way. I'm going to, and it might sound a little bizarre to people, but you got to remember that's kind of my career. That's what I do for a living outside of hunting. Is I'm a R&D machinist where I work with engineering teams to build new products, mechanical products out of metal, and problem solve. So I fix issues with new products and stuff that are pretty complicated. So I've been doing that my whole life. So when I look at products that are on the market for hunting, and I know hunting, I look at them in a different light than other people do. I see all the issues with them. You know what I mean? And I see how I could fix them because I understand the properties of metal, and plastics and all that. And so there was a lot of problems I had with the sticks, like the length of them. They're too long, and then they had too short of a stride on the steps, where you're wasting, putting too much weight on there for how much stride you got. So I wanted to be, a length of a step, one step, so that you don't have excess weight on or over that. And I wanted a rigid, step so that it wasn't squeaking, there wasn't washers, there wasn't bolts to loosen up and all that. So it was bolted together solid with nothing in between it, so it would never come loose, never squeak. And I wanted a really tight fit. So I actually extrude our own tubing, so it's always the same size, and I extrude the step to fit almost an exact fit, so that there's no moving parts that squeak against each other. I didn't like the buttons because they were an ABS plastic that breaks down and they would fold over, and every now and then you'd break a button off. So I made some high-grade Delrin buttons that are as strong as aluminum. And then I took all the weight out of it, by using computer models to see where I could remove material. And I just made them just exactly the way I'd want them. And I used computer models and diameters of trees that I figured we'd be in, and tweaked where the points should be to lock this thing into a tree, to get it to really lock. Because the biggest problem with short sticks is they kick out. And I didn't want mine to kick out. So I tweaked those models, got the points down pretty good, and then went out and did field testing and kept doing it until I got them right. And when we got done with the sticks, they're 2 pounds and they're strong as hell and they won't kick out and they lock in and you can quietly stack them together and put them on the back of any stand and with a couple plunges. And I really like the sticks. So then it was to build a stand. And the stand, my idea was to get a patent rolling, which I got a patent pending right now on machining or water jetting tree stands out of solid billet. And the reason I wanted to do that, and what most people wouldn't understand, is there's a grain to extruded material, where cast stands don't have that grain. So with extruded material, I could reduce the weight significantly because I can reduce the size of the material, because the extruded material will flex and it won't just snap like cast. Cast is fragile. So I machined the stands out of solid billet so I can make it really lightweight because of that. And it's an expensive process though. But so we got the weight real low down, and I worked really good on the height and stuff, making a bracket that attaches to the tree that you get onto an angle up to about 10 degrees of angle of tree, and it's just a superior stand.
So when you start with your billet plate or whatever, how much? I mean, like, how big is that plate? How thick? And like, what's the initial?
Well, I think the plates are like I want to say they're 12 feet long by about 8 feet wide, or something like that. I don't really work with the plate stock too much, but we get them in plates like that, and then we put them in a water jet and cut them out.
And what's the thickness? So, because looking, you and Mario did a really good video, kind of going through all the features and everything. But the tabs where the down tube attaches, are those welded on there then, or is that still machined? Like out?
Oh, that's welded on.
Okay, because I was like, that would have been a ton of material to remove just to keep those as a single spot. Like, wow. So
yeah, it's welded on.
And through that process, I mean, how long did that take? I mean, it would took you a couple minutes to explain the process. How long have you been working on the stand?
We've been working on it for quite a while. I think it's been about 6 years. You know, a lot of it was quiet. I mean, we were even doing drawing the stuff up before that, but I think I've been hunting out of it for at least 6 years now. And a lot of it we had to, you know, not let pictures be shown and stuff while I was hunting and stuff like that. But I really wanted to, you know, when I use something, I want to hunt with it, tweak it, and make it better, and just keep looking for problems and stuff. And a lot of companies, what they do is they throw products at people. They just get an idea, manufacture a bunch of it, sell it to people, and then look for the problems that come back and the returns that come back, and then they make a tweak and a second version or third version. And you know, I don't like doing that. I mean, this is an expensive product. I want it to be right when it goes out the door, and I'm used to doing that in my business. You know, making things that are really nice. And I think if you're selling a $50 tree stand or something, fine. I mean, you sell something that squeaks, makes noise, and is crappy. But if you're going to sell something for the price that we have to sell it for because of the manufacturing we put into it, we have to have a quality product.
And so, for the response of the public, right? So once you've when you release the sticks, and so those have been out for what, 2 years now, or so?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you released those, what was the initial response? Because I can tell you what my first thoughts were, but I mean,
the initial response was that they were really expensive. Everybody went berserk about the price. And my response was, and this is what I told Mario, I said, people are going to go nuts when they see the price. And we wanted to get that price as low as possible. I mean, I think a lot of people have the idea that we're doing that to get rich and just because people have to pay it, but it's not true. It's the manufacturing process to do all that machining on there. It's expensive. So that comes right back into the price. So we expected a lot of negative feedback, but my point was, when it gets in somebody's hands, they're going to look at it and go, okay, yeah, it's a stick. It's solid. The steps don't move, whatever. And they're going to think, oh, you know, who'd pay that? But what I knew was that if somebody uses this, and if they've been using the other products that are out there for mobile hunting, and if they truly mobile hunt, they're going to see the need of it. So if one guy in a group gets it and shows his buddies, everybody that touches that stick is going to buy it. And that's basically what it's been. I mean, at first everybody screamed about the price, and it's kind of hard to tell somebody something works really good. And they're not going to listen to me, especially if they're not going to listen to me. They're going to think I'm trying to sell them a stick. But I knew I had to get it in people's hands. And once it did get out there and get in hands, then it just took off like crazy, and now nobody complains about the price. But now with the stand, I'm getting the same thing. I mean, we put it out there. It's a heavy price, but you know, it costs to do that type of machining. It costs to make that type of platform, and it costs me more to make that stand, just to make it, than you can buy just about any other stand for. So I know that the people are going to complain about it. They're going to whine. They're going to say, "Oh, Dan's an ass for selling it for that price." I can't help it. You got to sell it for what you have to sell it for. I can't lose money giving them away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. And if somebody doesn't want it, they don't have to buy it. But the people that get it in their hands and try it and see that it's a lifetime investment will understand. I mean, just think of a bow somebody buys.
I was just going to bring that up.
Oh, there you go. So a bow's got a riser on it. How's that riser made? Just like I make my tree stands. The same way. They're using the same processes. Then it's got 2 limbs, 2 cams, and a string, and you throw it away after 5 years. This stand's going to last a lifetime.
Right. Most guys like buy a bow for $1,200, you know, when they come out, like right now, and then next year at this time, that bow's, you go to get rid of it, and you're lucky to get half of it. You know, like you're lucky to get $600 out of a used bow after 1 year old.
Right.
You know,
right?
And you got a tree stand that you're going to use forever. And if you do want to get rid of it,
I see guys selling the climbing sticks that they bought the first year we were selling them for what they go new.
Right.
Just because we can't keep up with orders.
Exactly.
I think so exactly what you said. Like I saw those sticks and I was like, oh my God, there's no way that anybody would pay that. There's no stick, you know, worth that. And then I start, you know, like you said, if you mobile hunt. So I used like just about every other stick, you know, that had come to the market. And I think if you want to call like the stick that you have in the class of the new premium stick, I think because that's kind of like the way that things are going now. You know, there's been others that have popped up, but I was like, okay, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. So I took the API sticks and I cut them down and I completely mimicked your stick, and it was okay. But it was, I think they were like 2.4 pounds, 2.6 pounds, something like that. And then exactly what you said, like once I held on to one of your sticks, I was like, I'm going to buy them. And I think I paid more than you were selling them for a set of 4 of them just because they weren't available. But it was like, it's going to be worth it for me. Like I'll just take them. And like we just did a podcast on the gear that we use this year, and John had asked me about that, and I'm like, the only thing I don't like about them is that I have to be careful where I put them because they're going to rip my seats in my car, or they're going to, you know, I've got holes in my pack because they're so sharp.
I might have to get you some new brackets.
So
it was just that first run of them that we did that were like that.
Yeah, and so you know, I did some like looking because I mean, if you're on any of the mobile hunting pages or anything like that, you know, the gear that's on there, like some of it is absurd. And one of the things you guys were talking about bows, like today, there was a double barrel crossbow that was just released, and we were talking about it earlier. John was at the bow shop earlier this week when he saw one before it was released, and the MSRP on it is $2,222.22, and I think the map pricing on it is $2,000.
Yep.
It's just absurd. And so, but you can't go on any of the mobile hunting forums without seeing somebody in a Sitka Fanatic jacket and saying how great it is, and they're $449. I mean, the incinerator jacket is $650 for a jacket. You know, if you want to get a saddle set up with a platform and ropes and everything, I mean, you're going to spend at least, $400, and that's if you really are on the budget side of putting it together, and it's going to be more than that.
800.
When you talk about packs, Kufaru is, if you want a frame only, is $400, and then the pack is $200 to $300 on top of that.
Yeah, my Exo pack, $660 for a basic.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these guys, and it's like, I think I was talking about it with somebody at work when I was saying, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, and we were talking about your stand a little bit. And do you think that because, your persona or, your hunting model is, blue jeans and T-shirts and all of this, that you identify with the blue collar guy and you're out there trying to teach people how to hunt, and then it ends up saying, he's coming out with the stand, and now your price point. Do you think that is it, or is it haters, or is it?
I think people expected it to be lower, just because of the persona thing. But I can't change what it costs to manufacture. And as a matter of fact, if there's any way we could, we'd have it lower. I mean, I want people to use it. I want people to have it. But the truth of the matter is, all products, just like you were just listing, all new products that are going to a niche industry, and mobile market's a niche industry, are high priced. I mean, it's not like I can make and sell 20,000 of them. It costs money to make them in small batches. It just does.
And you're talking about a premium product. I mean,
right. And I mean, I've always used Lone Wolf, and before the mobile market, Lone Wolf was the highest priced Treestand. And when I can remember in the 80s when we were selling them for $75. And people were going, that is ridiculous.
Well, and we were at you talk about that. We were at the tethered booth, before everything shut down last year. And, we were explaining, so somebody would say, well, what if I want to buy everything, a complete setup, everything that you have here for sale? And it was about $800. It was $700 or $800 for everything, and it was just, you'd watch their eyebrows raise, and that was kind of that. And we've said it before, like, we live in a bubble, so we think that everybody knows what this stuff costs or what it even is. So when you're and that's one thing I wanted to talk about with you, with like the transition from, like, your forum, from the Hunting Beast forum to the Facebook groups and everything like that. What kind of shift have you seen in the, I don't want to say like the caliber of person.
Environment.
I guess, John, this is a much better word, the environment on there, as far as like communication and banter.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I love my forum. And I always have. It's my go-to place. The people on there are all like family for the most part. Even some of them you argue with a little bit. You're still friends. You know what I mean? And and you don't really argue. You just debate something. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But when you get on Facebook, people are just rude. They're just nasty. They're mean. I think a lot of people join our page that don't even know who I am. Don't know nothing about me, and don't know nothing about beast hunting. They're just joining it because it's a page full of hunters where they can get on there and insult people. So we're constantly having to remove people because I'm trying to keep it clean. I'm trying to clean up the swearing and stuff like we did on the forum, because our forum is like it is. Because if anybody talks back to anybody, we just get rid of them. We don't put up with that at all. If it's something you wouldn't say to somebody's face, you ain't saying it online either. Not on my site. But Facebook has been really a challenge to clean that stuff up. And a lot of those guys will go create a new profile and come back on as somebody else. So then you start not letting people that are new on, and because you think it's one of the old people, and it's just like, it's a vicious circle. But yeah, there's just constantly rude and nasty people on there. And I mean, a lot of the people on there don't hunt like us. They're not mobile hunters. They're just on there because there's hunters. And those are the people that really freak out about price. I had a guy say, "How am I supposed to put 30 of these on my land if they're that price?" That ain't what it's for. It's not for you. You put 30 of them on your land. Go buy something cheap. I would too.
So, I guess what has been the response on the forum to the stand?
The forum has been great. I mean, there's a few guys that say it's too expensive for them, and I get that. It's not for everybody, but they're respectable about it, and and they can debate it and talk about it in a respectable manner. Anybody that hates Facebook, I would suggest they go check that out, because that forum is a nice place to have discussions and get advice without being put down. It's a good place to have, to let your kids on too. You have filters in, so you can't swear on there where Facebook don't.
Okay. So this year, for you, you ended up, you shot a 10-point on a piece of private land that you've been hunting with your buddy there, and you had a interesting moment where he shot one of the deer that, quote unquote, you were after. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that kind of made you feel? Having him get that deer.
That was a very interesting a year and a very interesting few days, because that's the best season we've ever had there. It's a really small farm. It's 70 acres and it's mostly open, and it's always had heavy pressure all around it. But in the last few years, a pretty decent guy leased the land on the one end of us, where it was always a bunch of just hillbillies would drive it and they'd sneak on our property and stuff and kill everything. And he leased it, and he's trophy managing, so it's really helped us. But on the other side of us, we still have a guy that shoots everything. So it's not easy over there, but it's been starting to get better. And because of the openness and stuff, it's hard. I mean, we don't have a lot of bedding on the property and stuff. But the 10-pointer I got, I had never seen before. We never got it on a camera or anything. But then when I checked my cameras, just recently, as a matter of fact, I got pictures of it coming onto the property the night before I shot it, following a doe, and it was following that doe when I shot it. So then I got that buck, and just before I got that buck, I hunted in the back, and I went down to this tree stand I had put up. I put it up I pre-hung it because it was in such a delicate area. So I went in there and hung the stand right up against these bedding areas, because it's like 50 yards from the bedding areas, and it's really tough to sneak in there. So I snuck to the stand that nobody had hunted yet and had been in there for a while. And as I get up to the tree, I look up and I see a deer walking on the hillside next to me at about 20 yards. But I was really sneaking. But I was kind of surprised it didn't catch me, because it was dry leaves. So I'm sitting there with this little tree in front of me that I'm about to climb, looking around the tree at this buck, and I can see it's got, a pretty decent 10-point rack, but I can't make out a lot of it, but it's definitely a shooter. And I could literally pick up my bow right now and shoot it. But I decided I didn't want to. I wanted to get in the tree and see if I could get the camera on and stuff. And I just figured it wouldn't work, but I'd try. So I climb up this tree, and the buck's still there, slowly feeding past, but still in an open area within 20 yards. I get my bow up there, I get my camera arm up there, and I start putting my camera arm on, and I'm looking, this thing's still there. And I'm trying, and I get my camera on it, and in my haste, I didn't get it tight enough, and the camera starts to fall. So I have to hold it up with like my knee, hang my bow up again, and get this thing on. And by the time I get it reset, the buck just walks out of the shooting lane. And I tried calling it back, and it just wouldn't come back. It just kept walking. So then, like I said, when I went out, I noticed that there was a whole bunch of heavy trails going to the front of the farm. and the wind was wrong the day that I saw that buck down the bottom. So the next day I'm going to go back out there, and I called Dave, and Dave's had cancer. He's been having a hard time getting out and stuff. He's getting better now. I mean, through treatments and stuff, but it's been a long road. But he just said, "Hey, Dan, I ain't got the energy." I'm like, "Dude, you could hunt the front. I could go after that buck back there." And he said, "I just don't have the energy." I said, "Okay." So I went out there alone, and I get out there, and I kept thinking, well, with the way the wind's going, if I walk past the front, I'm going to blow that deer out of there. Whatever's making all that sign going in there. You know, it really wasn't buck sign, but there's just heavy trails going into this bedding area, and I just figured there's got to be a buck in there. And I thought, well, okay, I'll hunt the front. Tomorrow I'll come back and I'll hunt the back where that buck was. So I hunt the front, and I ended up shooting that 10-pointer on that skinny little tree. I don't know if you saw that, but the tree was like 4 inches in diameter. Yeah. No back cover. So anywho, I get the buck. So Dave comes out, helps me with the buck and stuff, and I'm telling him he needs to go back after the buck, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I will. So then the wind was kind of wrong, so you could still hunt it, but you couldn't hunt it where I was. You had to get like up on the top. So he gets up on the top, sits back there, and that buck comes out, and he shoots it and takes a longer shot at it. He shot like 40 yards. And the buck runs off, and he comes, gets me, and we go look, and his liver hit, so we backed off. And I'm asking him, "What do you think it was?" And he says, "Well, I think it was about a 140 or something." And I'm like, "Do you recognize it?" And I don't know. I've never seen that buck before. You know, so he gives me the footage, and I come home, and I'm putting it in the computer, and I'm zooming in. You can't really, with the footage, tell how big it is. But one thing I can tell is that's a hell of a lot bigger than 140. So next morning we go out there because we wanted to back off for a night because of I was pretty sure he hit it in the liver based on the blood. And it was a good thing we did. It got about 200 or 300 yards, and had did a semi loop in that and bedded watching its back trail, and would have got out of there if we would have tracked it. But we found that they're dead and got it. And when we walked up to it, I looked at it and I was like, "Oh my God, that's the buck we've been hunting for like 6 years." And he goes, "Oh my God, it is." Yeah, dude, that's the 10-pointer. So we got that buck on, you know, we got the video up. And I think on the video, I think I said it was from like, we were hunting it from like 2016. But when I went back over the pictures, I think it was 2015 when it was a 2-year-old. I think it was an old buck. We actually had the taxidermist send in a tooth to be cut in half to see what the actual age is. But we got trail camera pictures from that thing from like 2015 or 2016 all the way up. And I've got a really big shed from it from 2 years ago. So that was pretty cool that he got that buck, you know, the cancer and stuff. He hasn't gotten a buck in a long time. He hasn't been getting out there hunting and stuff. And Dave's a really good friend, and I don't know anybody who puts in as much effort as him. And he actually legitimately felt bad. He's like, "Well, that's the buck you've been after." I'm like, "Dude, it's your farm."
Right. I said, watching that video, I thought you were almost more excited than he was about it.
Yeah, he was. I think he was kind of shocked a little bit, but I think he was like feeling bad that I didn't shoot it. It was kind of weird. But I love Dave to death. He's a great guy. Can't find a more pure guy. Is just brutally honest about everything. Just a great guy, and I couldn't be happier for him.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Now, when you're hunting a small property like that, it's just one of the things based on like what you had just kind of outlined there that I wanted to ask you about is on a small property like that, how do you balance like how many sits is too many, or how do you know if you're putting too much pressure?
And that's a really good question, because I think most people put too much pressure on. And what we've always done is we've always like hunted like once every couple of weeks, and do a lot of our hunts from a distance and watch in and wait till we see something, and then move in. because it's an open area, so we'll do some observing and stuff. We're putting a lot of food plots to draw deer in, but if you put a lot of pressure on them, they just go away. I mean, it's surrounded by swamp, and they go bed on somebody else's property. So this year we backed off even a little more. We didn't hunt there hardly at all early season, and just because we never really have a lot of luck there early season. We got a lot of does that live on the property, and the bucks seem to come in just before rut, the bigger stuff. So knowing the history of that, we kind of backed off for the first part of the year, and it really helped us this year. We had a lot of deer in there. But if you go back a few years ago, when Dave had cancer, I mean, he'd be sitting home doing nothing. He'd go out and hunt too much. He'd sit out there all the time. And, I mean, you can't knock a guy for wanting to hunt, but he couldn't get in the swamp like me. But he could go climb a ladder stand or something, and you see the difference in the pressure. His health is getting up there now, and we're going to get him set up with a nice mobile stand and some sticks, and try and get him in the swamp a little bit more.
So if you were going to get a stand for Dave, where would you go to find something like this?
I don't know, maybe Lone Wolf or...
So your stand is available now. I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I guess when I looked on the site, it's on there. But the way that the sticks attach is through like a kind of threaded rod system.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in the works, or are you trying to, or did you try, have you tried? I'm sure that you have engineered something so that, because I was looking at it, and so you have different options for attaching 3, 4, 5 sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different length bolts. So you kind of have to, if you're going to bring them all, or however many you got, you have to have the correct size rod.
Yeah. So what I do is I always take 5 sticks. Now, most people buy 4, so take that with a grain of salt. I just like having 5. Most of the time I use 4. Sometimes I use 3. Sometimes I use 2. But most of the time I use 4. I like 5 because if I run into a tree that needs 5 because you got to get a certain height to the cover or something, I just like having that extra one long. But whether I used 4 or I used 5, I wouldn't take 3 because I'm going to a tree that uses 3. And the reason is that when I hunt mobile and I go in, sometimes you get in an area and there's a hunter in the area. You can't hunt there. Now you go to another tree and you're like, oh crap, I'm a stick short. Or sometimes you run into hot sign and you're like, this got to be hunting now. And you never make it to your tree. At least if you're Dan Infalt, that happens a lot. So I always take my full set of sticks because I don't know what I'm going to run into.
Sure.
So if I'm going to mobile, I'm taking the whole setup. So whatever I choose is my number of sticks. I mean, some guys use extensions and stuff and only want to take 2 sticks or something. Some guys take 3. Some guys use 4. Some guys use 5. Whatever you use, I would take that all the time. I mean, you got to remember, we got these sticks down to the point where they're only 2 pounds. So another stick on her, you're not even going to notice. So you just put your full set of sticks on her and you take them. Now, a lot of guys perceive that the stick's got to be straight up and down because they've used longer sticks that don't go through the brush well and stuff. But what they don't realize is I've field tested this thing for a while. We used them up and down. We used them sideways. We put them on there all different kinds of ways. We tested all kinds of crap. This is the best way that I found to put them on there. And they go right through the brush because it's the size of your body, and it works real well like that.
And you have 2 different size sticks. Are you still using the longer sticks?
I went to the shorter ones. I like the shorter ones. They fit really well onto the stand. But the long ones fit on there too. You got to remember the longer ones are only 4 inches longer, so it's just 2 inches more on per side. So it's not really that big of a deal. But I like the shorter sticks. I didn't think I would. I built the longer sticks so it was so it was a stride length of most people. But everybody wanted short sticks. It's like the in thing. So I made them with kind of like a chip on my shoulder thinking, this is stupid. It's, not what they want. They just think they want it, kind of thing. But when I got done with them and I actually used them, I'm like, hey, these things kind of rock. So I guess the people were right now is wrong. But I guess the big thing with me was getting as high as I could with them. But what I found was you're still stretching the stick just as far, whether it's a long one or a short one. So you're only losing that 4 inches per stick. So if you're using 4 sticks, you're only losing 16 inches in height. I mean, I can literally just stretch them a little further and still get 20 feet,
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of think that's all we got for this evening. I mean, I know we started kind of late here. I don't want to keep you forever. But, I do appreciate it. Where can people find these stands and sticks, and when will they be available if they're not right now?
The stands and sticks are available. I mean, they're on pre-order, but the stuff's coming up pretty quick. So if you order them now, it won't be much of a wait. You can get them at huntingbeastgear.com. And we do have a pretty good video about the sticks and about the stand on our YouTube page that explains all the details. If somebody wants to see what it is or really get a good look at it.
Okay. And then what is the name of your forum if people haven't found it already?
The Hunting Beast. So it's pretty much thehuntingbeast.com.
Okay. Well, like I say, I think that's kind of all we got for this evening, Dan. I just really appreciate it. And I mean, I think, like you said, when people go on there and they say, well, they don't know who you are or this or that, I don't think we can say it enough. Thank you for everything that you do for hunters like us and, guys that are listening to, inspire people to say that, it's not that it's cool to go out on public land, but just to kind of open people's eyes to the fact that it's not as bad as you think, and it's probably better than you thought. So,
right.
I think you should put it the other way. Public land sucks. Everybody go out and buy their own and stay off the public.
It's really good. Just stay away from the stuff behind my house.
Right.
So I'm driving home from work last winter. Not this year, last year, in like spring. About this time last year. And I'm coming up my road here, and I live right in the public marsh. My house is surrounded by public land. So I'm coming up the road to it, and all of a sudden, bam, something goes bang, and there's sparks and stuff flying, and I'm flying all over the road. And my ball joint broke, and my tire folds under the truck. And my truck is in the middle of the road with this tire folded underneath it. And I get out, and I'm only like not even a half mile from my house. Just got off the expressway going 80 for half an hour. And I get out, and I'm looking under the truck, and I get under it to look at it. And while I'm under the truck, I hear some crunching, and I look, and I see feet coming out of the swamp. So I pull myself out from under the truck. The guy walks over with his phone and goes, "You Dan Infalt? I came out here from Kansas to look at this marsh. I can't believe I ran into you. I show you a map quick." There under my truck.
You came all the way from Kansas?
All the way from Kansas up here to scout.
Oh my God.
He'll probably listen to this and get mad at me, but it was funny. A little bit funny.
So was he in the right area?
I don't know. Kind of itching my head like, what the hell?
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so that was the Hunting Beast rig?
Yeah. Still sitting in my yard with the tire folded under it. I was going to fix it and never got to it.
So when you're looking on Google Earth, folks, you're going to see this truck. You know that's the right spot.
Anybody want to buy it? I'll autograph it.
Hey, you
Makes a
auctioned
good
off.
yard ornament.
Right.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, Dan, I think that's kind of all we got for the evening. So
All right. I appreciate you having me on.
All right.
No problem.